Hello everybody, John from Movie Burners here, back with another movie review, and today I'm going to be discussing the 2016 release Hush. Now, Hush is a refreshingly different take on the home invasion horror subgenre from Mike Flanagan. It's not got the most complex story you'll ever come across, but it's an exhilarating little psychological thriller of a film nonetheless that features a small but brilliant cast. It introduces our main protagonist early doors just as she's preparing some dinner, and Flanagan goes out his way to highlight the fairly isolated nature of Maddie's new life, living in a small, modern, cabin-style house out in the middle of an unnamed woods. He then does something very clever by completely removing sound to make the viewer aware that she's deaf. This is something which is leaned upon several times later on in the film, and it really puts us in Maddie's shoes. And despite being such a simple little thing, it's really quite effective. The first 20 minutes or so really serve as an introduction to the environment, her disabilities, she's deaf and mute, and a pet cat with a nasty habit of disappearing when bad stuff is about to happen. And it also features a particularly impressive smoke alarm, which of course you just know is going to come into use later on. When the villain of the piece finally does arrive on the scene, he does it with a bang, it would be fair to say, shooting Maddie's new friend Sarah with an arrow and then brutally stabbing her. And my initial thoughts during this were, bloody hell, that's a little bit harsh and more than a little disturbing, before thinking to myself, is it really necessary to stab someone that many times? Apparently it is, according to Mike Flanagan. I digress though. Following the disturbing murder, which by the way happened at one of the many sheer glass windows that are in this house, what a design choice that was, our masked assailant, aptly named The Man, because a man he is, changes target and decides to head inside. One of the creepier moments in the film happens around this point, when he stands behind an unaware Maddie with a knife just before she begins a FaceTime session with another friend. Sneaking out of shot, he grabs her phone, takes various snaps of her and then sends them to the MacBook she's using, which of course causes a horrified Maddie to become aware of the masked intruder now mooching around in her house. What follows is a pretty standard horror premise, with the intruder, who by this point is now locked out the house, and I did touch upon it briefly, but really, there is an ungodly amount of doors and windows in this house. He's revealed his face too, and he's began stalking an under siege Maddie, walking around the house pretty much again and again like a predator stalking its prey, just waiting for the right time to move in. He even says as much, tauntingly telling her, "Good, now let's have some fun," after removing his mask. And if this film is anything, then it most definitely is fun. Sure, it has all the horror stereotypes, like when she decides to inexplicably leave the house, hide under the porch, and then make an unsuccessful run for it. And if that's not bad enough, having not learnt a lesson, she goes for a walk out on the roof and along some very squeaky guttering, earning an arrow to her leg. Thankfully this second ill-advised trip isn't completely in vain though, as she does manage to snatch the crossbow after performing an arrow-avoiding move that Neo from The Matrix would have been proud of, and knocking her assailant down. Things after this point really do go up a notch, particularly the gore, especially after the arrival of an inquisitive John looking for his now dead wife. The gore isn't gruesomely bad or anything like that, but it's there, and it needed to be, I suppose, without giving much else away, because the final half hour of this film should be enjoyed first hand and not read about. I'll just go ahead and say that it's the most satisfied I've been to see a character die in a long, long time, and that shouldn't be much of a spoiler, because we all know that the antagonist is going to die at some point in this film. That's just the way they go. Kate Siegel is tremendous in this film, she really is. It can't be easy acting out the part of a deaf and mute person, especially when you are not afflicted with the disabilities, and let's be frank, not having those senses is unthinkable to those blessed with them. While she does have some form of an inner voice, she pretty much does this without any real dialogue, and most of the emotion and acting is really done in the facial expressions and eyes, and she really did nail it in this film. John Gallagher Jr was equally brilliant as the unnamed man. I'll admit I hadn't really heard of this chap until I watched 10 Cloverfield Lane, another film which incidentally featured a very small cast and had some psychological thriller elements in it too. But I tell you what, I certainly know about him now, and I'm glad for it. In Hush, he manages to pull off a fairly menacing and mentally unstable sicko vibe, whilst also injecting some intermittent moments of dark humour into the film. The highlights of this dark humour for me probably include acting like a ventriloquist with a corpse, to making a witty and humorous reference to the danger of smoking just after snuffing out an ex-smoker's life. In terms of the other two, they weren't really in the film long enough to pass judgment. I feel like I have to give an honourable mention to the cat, who turned up at the end like a complete and utter gangster and chilled on the porch surveying the aftermath. Now, I loved what Mike Flanagan did here in taking a heavily used premise, turning it on its head with the whole death element. He got the absolute maximum he could have out of the story and actors and actresses, delivering an intense and enjoyable film in doing so. There was a few minor, and I stress minor, niggles in there. First of which is, did Apple sponsor this film or something? Because that has to be up there with one of the most in-your-face product placements I think I've ever witnessed in a film. I'm an Apple fanboy myself, but Jesus, come on. Secondly, was there any need for that amount of windows and doors in a house that size? It was a small cabin, I think it was 99% window. Still though, anal niggles aside, I have absolutely no qualms in recommending this film. I certainly enjoyed every single minute of it, and I'll be giving it a 3.5 out of 5. Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes and Google Play, whilst also giving us a little follow on Facebook at Movie Burner Entertainment and on Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out on the Movie Burner blog at movieburnerintertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.